Hi, welcome to the Factorologist. The myth of the Wild West is one of the most persistent and influential myths in American culture. From quick-draw gun duels and cowboy hats to notorious outlaws such as Jesse James and Billy the Kid, the Old West is full of legends and lore, many of them popularized by dime novels and, later, Western movies. Sorting truth from fiction can be a tricky process when it comes to the American frontier. Here are 6 facts about some of the most infamous outlaws from the Wild West. Billy the Kid was just 21 years old. When he died, Henry McCarty, alias William H. Bonney, and best known as Billy the Kid, was only 21 years old when he was killed by Sheriff Pat Garrett in 1881. McCarty packed a lot into his short and violent life. He was orphaned at 15, committed his first crime shortly after, joined a band of rustlers, and quickly became involved in the brutal Lincoln County War between rival factions, which featured famous names from the Old West, such as Sheriff William J. Brady and John Chisholm. Despite his early demise, Billy the Kid became one of the most notorious gunfighters of the American West. According to his own count, he killed 21 men, although the actual number is probably fewer than 10. Jesse James was shot in the chest. Twice before he was even 18. Jesse James was an outlaw, guerrilla fighter, and leader of the famous James Younger gang that pulled off a series of daring and often vicious robberies of banks, trains, and stagecoaches. He was a notorious celebrity during his lifetime and became one of the most legendary figures of the Wild West. Things could have been a lot different, however, as James was lucky to have made it out of his teens alive. Before he was even 18, he had been shot twice in the chest. The first shooting happened in 1864 during the American Civil War when James was fighting alongside a group of pro-Confederate guerrillas known as Quantrill's Raiders. Despite the chest wound, James was ready to ride again in a matter of weeks, but he carried the bullet in his body for the rest of his life. The following year, James was once again shot in the chest, this time while trying to surrender to a Union cavalry patrol. It was a serious wound, but he was slowly nursed back to health by his cousin Z. Mims, whom he married 9 years later. Butch Cassidy had a strong aversion to killing. All humans should have an aversion to killing others, but for the leader of a gang of criminal outlaws in the Wild West, it was quite unique. For all his notoriety, it's possible that Butch Cassidy never killed a soul. He was known as something of a gentleman who abstained from actually using his gun, and he tried to keep his gang, the Wild Bunch, from unnecessary violence during robberies. That said, gang members such as Kid Curry, George Curry, and Will Carver certainly did claim their fair share of victims. Butch, however, tried his best to keep people safe. According to Richard Patterson, author of Butch Cassidy, a biography, the closest Butch ever came to harming a robbery victim was when he used explosives to force his way into an express car. The Sundance Kid took his name from the town where he was arrested. Harry Alonzo. Longabore was arrested only once during his lifetime, but the arrest gave rise to one of the most famous names in the history of the Wild West, the Sundance Kid. Longabore left home when he was just 15 years old. A couple of years later, in 1887, he stole a gun, a horse, and a saddle from a cowboy while traveling across Wyoming. He was captured and arrested in Miles City, Montana, and sentenced to 18 months in the Sundance, Wyoming jail. While incarcerated, he adopted the nickname the Sundance Kid. Upon his release in 1889, he tried to make an honest life for himself as a cowboy, but it didn't go as planned. He soon became an integral part of the Wild Bunch and was known as the gang's fastest gunslinger, although it's possible he never killed anyone during the gang's various heists and robberies. Buffalo Bill was a vocal supporter of women's rights. William Buffalo Bill Cody was one of the most colorful figures of the Old West. A buffalo hunter, U.S. Army scout, Pony Express rider, showman, actor, and all-around celebrity, he helped create the myth of the American West with his Wild West show, which made him one of the world's first global celebrities. Having spent years in the company of famed frontier women such as Annie Oakley and Calamity Jane, Buffalo Bill became a strong supporter of the rights of women. When asked by a reporter if he supported women's suffrage, his response was unequivocal. "I do." Set that down in great big black type that Buffalo Bill favors woman suffrage. If a woman can do the same work that a man can do and do it just as well, She should have the same pay. It was a bold response for its day, especially coming from a hardened frontiersman. Belle Starr was dubbed the Bandit Queen. It's certainly true that Belle Starr associated with a rogues gallery of Wild West figures, including Frank James and Jesse James. It's also true that she was a crack shot, rode side saddle while dressed in a black velvet riding habit, carried 2 pistols, and had cartridge belts strung across her hips. It is highly unlikely, however, that Starr was the criminal mastermind of a gang that preyed on travelers, ranchers, and cowboys, as the myth surrounding her might suggest. It was only a few months after her death in 1889 that a purported biography, Bella Starr, the Bandit Queen, or The Female Jesse James, was published by the king of dime novels, Richard K. Knox. Supposedly written by Starr, it was most likely a fabrication, and it helped cement the myth surrounding this Old West outlaw. If you want to learn more about various facts, please subscribe to The Factorologist. Until next time.